What if I told you that financial freedom, for the vast majority of people, is not just a distant dream but a carefully constructed illusion? It is not because people are unintelligent, and it is certainly not because they are lazy. The truth is far more unsettling. The system is engineered by design to keep you occupied, perpetually confused, and just comfortable enough that you never think to question the rules of the game. By the time most people realize the entire game is rigged, the finish line is already out of sight. Why? Because no one ever handed them the real rulebook. They gave you a pamphlet instead. It tells you to budget meticulously, to work tirelessly, to climb the corporate ladder, and to invest what little is left over into a market you barely understand. They sell you this narrative that financial freedom is simply a matter of discipline. But let us be brutally honest for a moment. If discipline alone was the key, every nurse working double shifts, every teacher grading papers late into the night, and every factory worker who has saved every spare penny would be retiring as a millionaire. But they do not. The reason for this has absolutely nothing to do with their effort and everything to do with the system's architecture. True financial freedom is not about lavish spending or accumulating mountains of gold. It is about something far more profound: control. It is about owning your time. It is about having choices. It is the quiet, unshakable power to say no. No to a boss you despise. No to a bill that aims to break you. No to a crisis that would otherwise shatter your world. This kind of freedom is never handed out. It must be constructed, piece by painstaking piece. And to build it, you must first understand the invisible walls holding everyone else back. Let us take a quick journey through history, shall we? For most of human civilization, wealth was synonymous with land. Land produced food, and food was the ultimate source of power. In medieval Europe, a staggering 90% of the population worked the land for someone else. They were called serfs, a polite term for laborers ensnared by debt, rent, and the constant, gnawing fear of starvation. Does that dynamic sound just a little familiar? Fast forward a few centuries to the Industrial Revolution. Suddenly, people were no longer tied to the soil. They were chained to a wage. The factory floor replaced the open field, but the fundamental arrangement remained identical. Work grueling hours, earn just enough to survive, and above all, stay dependent on the system. The factory whistle replaced the rooster's crow, but the song remained the same. The 20th century introduced a novel concept: the middle class. This was a group with wages supposedly high enough to purchase homes, support families, and perhaps even enjoy a comfortable retirement. But even within this gilded cage, genuine freedom was exceptionally rare. The entire system, from the education that trained compliant workers to the consumer culture that encouraged endless spending, was built to keep people on a perpetual treadmill of earning and spending. Now, welcome to the 21st century. Our productivity has gone through the roof, and technology has evolved beyond our wildest dreams. Yet, for most people, real wages have remained stubbornly flat for decades. The middle class is shrinking, while the costs of basic necessities like housing, healthcare, and education have skyrocketed. Debt is no longer a last resort. It has become the default setting for modern life. Student debt, credit card debt, auto loans, mortgages. The average American household is now weighed down by over $100,000 in total debt. And remember, that is just the average. So I will ask you a simple question. Who benefits when the majority of the population is always paying something back to someone? And just when you think you are finally getting ahead, a silent thief enters your home every night. Its name is inflation. $1 today buys a fraction of what it did just a couple of decades ago. The supposed solution: print more money and lower interest rates to stimulate the economy. But here is the part they do not advertise. Every time that happens, the prices of assets inflate. Stocks, real estate, commodities. The wealthy, who already own these assets, see their fortunes multiply without lifting a finger. The poor and the middle class, who own little to nothing, fall further and further behind. This is not a glitch in the system. It is the system's primary engine, a financial machine powered by debt, lubricated by inflation, and sustained by widespread confusion. And the most brilliant, most insidious part of this entire design, it meticulously trains you to blame yourself. You did not save enough, that is your fault. You cannot afford a house, you are not hustling hard enough. You are living paycheck to paycheck, you just need to budget better. The system itself never accepts accountability. It simply offers you a new budgeting app, another productivity course, or a new financial product, all while ensuring the bars of your cage remain firmly in place. This is where the truth begins to sting, but it is also where your path to liberation begins. Most people will never be financially free, because freedom requires something far more potent than income. It requires leverage. Most people are taught to trade their time for money, exchanging their one truly finite resource for wages. But real wealth is generated from the exact opposite equation, when your money starts working for you, when your assets generate income, when your time becomes optional. That critical transition from labor to leverage is where true freedom resides. The majority of people are caught in a cycle that feels like progress, but is actually a hamster wheel. Get a job, take out loans to get an education, buy a car and a house on credit, upgrade your lifestyle with every small raise, chase the next promotion, pay your taxes, and then maybe, if you are lucky, you get to retire. The problem is not just the debt itself, but the dependencies it creates. When you depend on a paycheck, you cannot afford to take risks. When your entire existence is financed, you lose the ability to say no. Your identity becomes entangled with your consumption, and you spend your life maintaining an image you were manipulated into wanting. Now let us peek behind the curtain at how the upper class, the truly financially free, operates. They are playing an entirely different game, with a different rule book. They do not trade time for money. They own. They delegate. They compound. They possess a deep understanding of tax law, legal loopholes, trusts, and holding companies. Their strategic thinking spans decades, not pay periods. And most importantly, they ensure the system remains just opaque enough that you never learn to think the way they do. They do not teach you about financial leverage in school. They do not explain how inflation is a mechanism for transferring wealth upward. They conveniently leave out the fact that passive income is not some fantasy, but the very foundation of how the wealthy stay wealthy for generations. Instead, you are fed a constant diet of hustle culture, lifestyle marketing, and the grand illusion of meritocracy. Work harder, grind longer, keep up. It is a treadmill disguised as a noble journey. And when you inevitably burn out, they will gladly sell you therapy, premium coffee, or a wellness retreat, but never the truth. And the truth is this: financial freedom is a rebellion. It is a conscious rejection of dependency. It is a refusal to accept the default premise that you must trade the best years of your life to build someone else's dream. But you cannot rebel against a system you do not understand. That is why financial education is not optional. It is the very foundation of personal sovereignty. It all starts by asking deeply uncomfortable questions. Where is your money actually going each month? What percentage of your income is directly tied to your own labor, and how can you begin to shift that ratio? What skills do you possess that can be compounded over time? What assets can you build or acquire that will generate cash flow while you sleep? And just as crucially, what can you remove? What expenses, what assumptions, what addictions to convenience or the approval of others are keeping you anchored in place? Because real wealth is not just about having more, it is about needing less. I am not talking about a purely minimalist aesthetic. I am talking about a strategic reduction, where every dollar you do not spend is a seed of freedom planted, not a joy denied. This is where your mindset becomes your greatest asset. The average person reacts to their financial situation. The financially free person designs their life around their financial principles. They build buffers, they anticipate volatility, and they understand the crucial difference between price and value. So what is the practical path forward? It is not glamorous. It will not make you a viral sensation, and it certainly will not make you rich overnight. But it is real. First, reduce your fragility. Cut the liabilities that force you to be reactive. This might mean downsizing your home, selling a car you do not need, or moving to a more affordable area. Every dollar of flexibility you create is a dollar of power you regain. Second, become a builder of assets. I am not just talking about stocks. Assets are skills that can earn money in the open market. They are small businesses that can grow beyond your direct input of time. They are investments that produce income. Even a strong, well-placed network is a powerful asset. Think in terms of decades and compound relentlessly. Third, protect your mind. Do not drown in the endless deluge of news, advertisements, hype, and fear. Study history. Understand systems. Learn how incentives drive human behavior. The more calm and curious you remain, the harder it is for the system to manipulate you. And fourth, share the knowledge. Real power is not hoarded, it is multiplied. When more people understand how the game is truly played, the game itself begins to change. Because the truth is, most people will never achieve financial freedom. Not because they are incapable, but because they were never shown how. They were handed a script at birth, told it was the story of their life, and were subtly punished any time they dared to stray from its pages. But you do not have to follow that script. You can write an entirely new one. It starts with clarity. From clarity comes control. And from control comes freedom. Not the fantasy freedom of social media, but real, tangible freedom. The kind where you, and you alone, choose how you spend your days. The kind where an unexpected emergency does not destroy you. The kind where money finally becomes a useful tool, not a tyrannical master. It is not an easy path, but it is possible, and it starts right now.